Alright, this video is going to cover the payroll class. So let's look at this. So this is a practice written quiz. So what I would do if I were you is I would actually print this out and do it by hand and see how far you can get, because on your test you're going to have to write this out by hand, so you might as well just practice it right now. So it says design a payroll class that holds the following data: an employee name, an ID, a number, an hourly pay rate, and number of hours worked. Okay, so when we're working through this, what are we trying to do? We're basically the main class should display the following. Sorry, I skipped ahead, but you're just displaying an employee's pay information. So that's the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. Now the nouns, as I go through this, now again, your first noun is always the name of what you're doing, so I would just call it payroll. Okay, that's what's going to be. You're going to create main payroll and payroll. All right, but then we go through the other nouns. Now I tell you it holds the following data. So it's going to have an employee name, an ID number, what else? An hourly pay rate, and the number of hours worked. Those are my nouns. Those are my variables. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The program should have a mutator setter method that sets employee name, ID, number, hourly pay rate, and hours worked. So when I see the word setter, that's going to be my verb. Okay, that's what's those are going to be my setter methods. So set, we'll call it emp name for employee name. We're going to set ID number. We're going to set hourly rate, and we will set the, I'm just going to call it hours worked, instead of calling it, well, and I might change that. We'll see. Let me get started when I write my program. Let me see here. Set emp ID, set name, emp name, set, yeah, I just did hourly rate, and set hours worked. Okay, so that's good. So in here it says the hours worked and gross pay. So the program should have a mutator setter method that sets the emp name, ID, hourly pay rate, hours worked, and gross pay. The class should also have a separate accessor getter method that returns emp name, ID, and let me see here, gross pay real quick. So we need to have a set gross pay. So set gross, gotta spell it right, set gross pay. And then we need to do basically all those, only they need to be getter methods. So we would say get emp name, get ID number, get hourly rate, and get hours worked, and get gross pay. Get gross pay. Okay. Now if we want to do a UML model, what you do, insert a table. There'll be one row with 3 columns. The first is your name of your class. So I'm going to copy that, copy, paste that there. And then these are just your different variables that you're going to have. So I'm going to copy that and paste that there. This would be a string. I'm just going to call it emp name. we're going to have an int ID number, and we'll have double, and we'll have that right there, and we'll have a double hours worked. So double, and I apologize, I'm doing this in Word, so it's just automatically doing that with upper and lower case. Alright, so I should be able to do that quickly, so I can put this in. These are going to be the name of my methods. So let's do set name right there. And I'm going to come over here and move these over here. Okay. So I got set emp name, set ID num, Control C, V, set hourly rate. Okay, set, okay, cool. So then let's write out, so I would have a public void set emp name, and I'll have to accept the string emp name. And you know what, I might mess with this to make this larger so I can, let me see here. That's going to screw things up, that's fine. I just want it to look like this for you guys right now, so you can see how you can just read from the, and you know what, I'm even going to really mess it up and move this down here so then I can have lots of room. So basically you can read directly from the UML model. So what I did was, this is hard to read because it's in paragraph form. This pulls out all my nouns and verbs that I need to use, and then once I have those, I can make this thing called a UML model, United Modeling Language, and I can program directly from it. So public void set ID number, and I need to accept int ID number. Public void set hourly rate. So let me see here. So the hourly rate will have to accept my my hourly rate, which would be a double hourly rate. Okay, and then I need public void set hours worked. So then I can have int hours worked. Then public void set gross pay. So that's not going to accept anything because my hourly rate and my hours worked will will be set right here, hours worked, and the rate will get set up here, and so we'll just run a calculation in there. And so then for our get methods, we'll say public string get emp name. Then we'll have public int get ID number. We'll have public double get hourly rate, public double get hours worked. Is hours worked num hours worked. Just call it hours worked here instead of num hours. We'll just call it hours worked, and we'll make that hourly lowercase. And I'll probably do ID as lowercase. I like doing everything lowercase, even though I understand camel casing might be an issue for some of you. And then public double get gross pay. Okay, so I can actually copy these into my class once I create it. So let's do that. So I'm going to do file, and hopefully this works, new project, File, new project. So we'll, the class is going to be called Payroll, so we'll create main payroll first. So I'll say next, and I'll say main payroll, so I'll say finish. So that will create this payroll class next. Now, one of the biggest pains of this program is actually going to be formatting this thing so you get something that looks like that. It's not really hard, but we'll look and see how to do that. Okay, so let me scroll in and delete some of this stuff to clean this up. There's that. There's this. Okay, so where's main payroll? Main Einstein, main payroll right here. So I'll right click and I'll say new Java class and I'll call it payroll. Press enter. Again, I'm going to make that larger. Alright, cool. Alright, so up here I know I'm going to have to import java.util.scanner because we're going to use the scanner class. So right here I'll say scanner, my scanner equals new scanner, system.in. I am also going to need to have the payroll class, so I'll say payroll, my payroll equals new payroll. Okay. And remember I told you guys, I can copy my methods right in here. And so I'll just open and close that, open and close that, open and close that, open and close that, open and close that. And if I did this right, I shouldn't have any errors. Now I'll go back and look at this, but whoops. Okay, there's a bunch of errors in here because these are return statements. But we'll get that in a second, okay? All your getter methods require a return statement. What are you returning? So we'll get that in a minute. So anyway, the first thing you want to do is you want to get all your information, all right? So you'll say system.out.println. You'll have to ask the user for the employee name. Please enter the employee name. And then we'll have string. I'll just call it emp name equals my scanner dot next. Then we'll have to ask for the ID, system.out.println. Please, I'm going to close that. Please enter the employee ID number. So I'll say int emp. Let me see what I called it right in here. So I can be ID. I called it ID number. So I'll just call it ID number in here. So I'll say, instead of emp ID, I'll just say ID number equals my scanner.next int. Then I gotta ask for the hourly rate. Please enter the hourly pay rate. So that's a double hourly rate. Scanner.next double. And then finally system.out.println. Please enter the hours worked. So double hours worked equals my scanner.next double. Okay, so that would populate all of our values. And so next thing we have to set everything. So we'd have my payroll dot set, and let's see what I called it, set emp name. So we passed in that, and it's kind of nice that NetBeans my payroll dot set, and it popped up, you know, what we're gonna set. So set emp. Well, let me see what I called it. Set ID number. So instead of emp, I said set ID number, and I pass in the ID number. Payroll. So then my payroll dot, and then so the next one is going to be the hourly rate, and the only thing we need to do is pass in the hourly rate. Make sure I've got that right there. Set hourly rate, and then I don't want get, I want set. I picked the wrong one, I apologize. So my payroll dot set, what's the next one? Hours worked. Hours worked, and I pass in the hours worked variable. And right, let's see here. Copy that, make sure that's right. Paste. Set hours worked. Set hours worked as an int. Let's make it a double, because you could do like 4.5 hours or whatever. Okay, so that goes away, and my payroll dot set gross pay. So that's that. So now we got some formatting to do. So I'm going to do a system.out.print. And I'll say employee name. Now there's different ways to format. This is just one way to do it. You can do it a different way. This will be like there, and I'll say employee ID. This one will do hourly pay rate. Will be hours worked, and then finally I'm going to make this one an ln, because my next line will actually be it'll be just underlines. Okay, so system.out.println or print. So that's this stuff right here. So that's my header, and then I'll do a line underneath it. So I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to do, how many will I do? 1, 2, 3. I'll do like 4 of these, and we'll just see how it comes out. I'm not actually sure. Maybe I'll do 5 of them. 4, 5, and this last one will be an ln, so I'll go to a new line. Okay, so now I got to go in here and set all my information properly. So I'm going to say my emp name equals emp name, and I need to define my variable string my emp name. Whoops. Then I've got my ID number equals ID number. And remember, I'm doing this because each class should know their own variables. Okay. Then I'm going to have a my hourly rate, which is going to be a double, and I'm going to have my hours worked. So my hourly rate equals hourly rate, and my hours worked is going to equals hours worked. And we'll then also have a double called what? We'll have a double called my gross pay, and my gross pay is equal to my hourly rate times my hours worked. Okay. And finally, I just got to return all this information. So return my emp name. I need to return my ID number. I need to return my hourly rate. I need to return my hours worked. And I need to return my gross pay. Okay. So again, you're probably going to need to slow this video down and pause it to understand what's going on here and to type all this out. But these methods set all my data and these get my data. And so then I have all this. Now I just need to display all of it down below. So I'll say system.out.print, and I'll say my payroll.getEmpName, so that gets it. And I'll do a plus, and I don't know, 1, 2, 3, let's say. And again, you're going to have to get things to line up properly. And then you got to spell payroll right. But it'll say my payroll.get emp. Did I call it emp ID? No, I said get ID number plus. And then let's do the same thing, 1, 2, 3, system.out.print, my payroll.get hourly rate, plus, let's do that, and hourly rate, I probably want to do like a plus or a dollar symbol in front of it. And then I need my payroll get hours worked plus, let's do like just 3 blanks, print hours worked, and then my payroll.get gross pay. Alright, so let's run this and see what we get. And we'll put in numbers that are really easy to kind of understand. So let's say our hourly rate is $10.50. So this should compile faster. Alright, so employee name Mike, ID 12345, hourly rate 10.5, hours worked, let's say 10. So 10 times 10.5 is 105. So Mike, so I need to move this over a bunch. So in order to fix that, let's keep that there, but let's do, so I got name, and then let's move the ID number over a lot more, like there, and run it again and see what happens. So part of this, like I know the data works and I know this works, I just don't, you know, I don't want to make the whole purpose of the video, you know, me lining everything up. So I got employee, I should have done this one. Let's try that again. So Mike, ID 12345, 10.5 an hour, and I work 10 hours. So I don't know, there's employee ID, hourly rate, hours worked right there, and then gross pay. So anyway, you guys are going to want to line everything up properly. I'm gonna give it one more go just by eyeballing it, but you guys can do this on your own. It's not that hard to do. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try this now. See if this looks a little bit better, and this will be my last go at this. So 10.5, 10. Nah. You know, their hourly rate's fine. I need to move this over a bit and then this over a bit. But you get the idea, and it works. This program works fine. So go ahead at home, fix this. See if you can write this out by hand. But this video is done.